slightly weird sounding voice. The combination of the microphone and being sick is probably not the best, so hopefully it's fine. So basically in my short presentation today, I'm going to be looking at how you can generate more leads for your startup business. So how you can use digital marketing to help you generate more leads. And we're going to look at 3 really key steps around how you can do this. So I want to introduce a bit of a problem, and that problem is that digital marketing is very complicated. So the feedback I've got from startup owners, founders, and even people in very established businesses is fairly consistently the same. It's that this stuff is complicated. There's so many things I could be doing or we could be doing as a team. What actually makes sense and what should we do? And once we know what we should do, how much should we be spending? You'd be pretty lucky to have an unlimited budget to work with. Unfortunately, mere mortals like us can't do that. Once you've got money to work with, how do you know whether or not it's working? Are you spending your money on things that just aren't delivering results for your business and not moving the startup forward? And so what I want to do in this presentation, really with the time we've got, is just look at how you can simplify this to a very simple framework so that instead of having to worry too much about whether you're getting it right, you're on the right path. The technical aspects of the platforms you can work with, that's a whole different kettle of fish. But knowing that you're working in the right places and putting your attention in the right places, that's the key things I want to talk about today. So just to give you a little bit of background about myself, there's a reason I put that picture up of me playing guitar. I started out doing digital marketing about 12 years ago, back at high school. I played in a band. We were called the Young Souls. We were actually not too bad. We were pretty good by crappy high school band standards. And I was the lead guitarist, and I had a really rubbish guitar. And I didn't make enough money working my Saturday job at the supermarket to buy a better one. So I went online and literally searched how do you make money on the internet, which never ever do that, because that will lead you down a terrible rabbit hole. And it's only fortunate that I wasn't old enough to have a credit card, otherwise I probably would have sent all my money offshore. But basically I got into building websites, selling products on them, so affiliate marketing, if you've heard of that concept. And that got me in the door in the digital marketing industry. Since then I've been fortunate enough to work with some pretty cool businesses. I've worked with the Warehouse Group, I've worked with some startups here in Christchurch, and now I help businesses, startups and B2B companies develop their marketing strategies and implement them and do a lot of training and sort of consultation work. So let's look at the framework, let's get started on that. The first piece is all around knowing your purpose, value and message. So heaps of businesses get this part wrong, so we'll talk about that in a bit more detail. Then we've got to have the right channels. So you might know what value you bring to the table, but if you communicate that in the wrong place, it's never going to work. And the final piece is how we actually measure and scale, and what should we be measuring and how do we scale. So let's start with the value and message. So what is your purpose? That is really the first thing. You've got to have that right. So if you don't have a purpose behind what you do, it becomes incredibly difficult to try and communicate the value you bring to the companies or the individuals you're trying to sell to. So how many people here are pretty comfortable with their startup or with their business that you know what your purpose is and you can communicate that purpose relatively easily? Put your hands up if you think that's you. That's really good to see. Sometimes I'll do this talk and there'll be barely any hands go up, and then we've got to spend a bit more time really thinking about purpose. But I'm a big believer that purpose makes a huge difference. Most of us, obviously it's nice to have a profitable business, or hopefully profitable one day, but all the best entrepreneurs, startup owners, founders, business owners I've spoken to, all of them are driven almost more by purpose than anything else, and that purpose then seeps through into the marketing and makes it a lot more effective. So if you don't have a purpose, you do need to work on that. But once you've got your purpose, you need to think about your value proposition. So what value do you bring to the customer or the potential customer for your product? If you don't have a value proposition, you will struggle a great deal with marketing, because if you don't have a value proposition, what tends to happen is you fall back onto feature-based marketing. So you talk about the specs, you talk about the price, you talk about things that they're useful to know, but people are generally motivated by pain, or they're motivated by pleasure. Pain is a more powerful motivator, in fact, and avoiding pain. Generally, that's where you'll find your value proposition, is you're solving some kind of pain for people. So what problem are you trying to solve? If you ever struggle with that value proposition, just think about that. What problem am I trying to solve? What problem do I solve for my customers or my audience? And that's where you find your value proposition. Just going out there and saying, I sell a product that has X, Y, Z features, it's not a very compelling argument. but if you save people time, if you save them money, if you save them perhaps from the risk of embarrassment, I mean, one of the best sort of value propositions within a value proposition I've ever seen is a piece of software that I saw for marketing on reporting on digital marketing stats, and there's a really good little bit of value in there, and that they have a system that stops the reports automatically sending to your clients if KPIs aren't quite aligned, but they really framed it nicely around avoid that pain of something going out that you're not happy to have go out. We take that pain away for you. So just think about the value you bring and the problem you solve. And then the next bit is really important, to be able to state that concisely. Where this tends to fall down is that obviously as startup founders can be, especially technical founders, can be quite bad at this. It's all up here in your head, and it makes lots of sense when you think about it, but when you communicate it to people, when you say it to people, it doesn't come out quite so concisely and quite so nicely. So work on your whole value proposition and that message around it until it's really something that you can communicate in, a sentence or two. I help B2B companies to generate more leads via online marketing. Something simple like that it's black and white, you can't really get confused. That will help you a lot. And as I mentioned earlier, really focus on the benefits and support with the features. People buy the benefits and then they use the features to rationalize that purchase in their head. People don't so much look at the features and then think, okay, that feature set meets what I want. They're far more motivated by the benefits side of things. So helping people enjoy pleasure or helping people avoid pain, focus your benefits around that and use the features of your product to then support that message. So once you've got that done, once you understand your value proposition, once you understand the problem you solve, what comes next? You've got to actually start marketing this thing, right? You've got to get in front of people who could be good customers. So this is where it's important to understand your channels to market, and this is where a lot of people fall down with digital marketing. There's so many things you could do. You could do Facebook advertising, you could do Google ads, you could do email marketing, you could create a YouTube channel. There's literally a million things you could do, but you can't do everything well. You can only do some things well, especially when you start. It's a bit like if you were to go and buy dollars worth of every single company on the share market. You're never going to get too far doing that. You spread your risk, certainly you hedge your bets nicely, but you're never ever going to get much return. So the first question I think you should ask yourself when you're trying to pick your channels is, what do you have more of? Have you got more time, or have you got more money, or do you really have quite a good mixture of both? What I tend to find is that a lot of startups will have one or the other. So some will have lots and lots of time. They're starting off, they don't have much money in the bank. So if you've got lots of time available, that's where you might look at some more of the sort of free methods of generating leads online. Things like creating blog posts that are targeted around problems people are searching so that your website gets found in Google and you drive leads that way. Building up something like a YouTube channel that informs people, provides a solution to problems and pre-sells your product. Things like Facebook marketing, not paid advertising, but building up a big following or a good sized following. On the other hand, you might have almost no time but money to spend. That's when you're going to look more at the paid advertising side of things, so Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn advertising, all those kinds of things. The next point's a really important one. Are you introverted or extroverted? My feeling is that there's an enormous amount of pressure on startup founders, regardless of whether they are introverts or extroverts, to act in an extroverted manner. This is feedback I've got from a lot of people. There's that societal pressure to say you have to be out there and like getting up and talking in front of people and putting yourself out there on social media and YouTube and all those places. If you don't like that, you don't have to do it, and it will generally show through if you're not comfortable doing it. So instead, think about ways that you could sit more behind the brand name rather than your own personality, if that makes sense. I'm a person, but I have a brand as well. If I wasn't so comfortable being up in front of people and putting my own name out there, I would sit more behind the brand. So just have a think about that. Google's a good example, right? Google's the brand. There are people who founded it and sat behind it, but we know the brand more than we know the people. You don't have to be an extrovert to be successful. Next point is think about whether you're fulfilling demand or creating it. So if you sell desks or chairs or knives or something like that, you're fulfilling demand. People will go on Google, they'll search desks for sale in NZ. You can put up a Google ad, you can try and rank your website #1. They will come and they might buy from you because they have demand existing. A lot of startups exist in the second space. That's where there is a problem that you know exists. They know it exists. They aren't necessarily looking for that solution at a given point in time. That's where you're looking at more at ways of getting in front of that audience on a demographic and interest basis. And you've got to sort of, I guess, a bit like fishing, you've got to sort of reel them in a bit more over time rather than just yanking the line in, because they aren't yet ready to buy, but they hopefully will be down the track. And just as I said before, you can't do everything all at once. Be good at a few key things. Don't try and do it all. And finally, once you've picked some channels, what do you do from there? You want to measure what works and do more of it, and do less of what doesn't work, and you want to scale up. So the first point is the most important one. You must focus on leads and sales. Don't focus on fluffy things that feel good. So how many likes your Facebook page has, how many people visit your site, how long they spend on the site. They're all helpful, really, really helpful, but the only thing really that matters is, are you getting leads and are they turning into sales? You can't call up the IRD and pay your GST bill with Facebook likes. I haven't tried, but I suspect it wouldn't be very successful if I did. So yeah, I'll save you the pain of trying to do that. Make sure that you tie commercial outcomes to the channels. So with something like Google Analytics, for example, you can go back and you can see if the tracking is right, that hey, Facebook is the most effective channel for my business at generating leads, so I'm going to do more of that. Computers don't have any feelings, so you can be really ruthless with them. It's not like cutting a salesperson or a member of the team. If one type of advertising doesn't pull its weight, get rid of it. You know, when you start to grow and you've got more resources to do everything or do more things, you can afford to be a little bit more flexible. But in the start, when you're at the startup phase, be really, really ruthless with what works and really focus on what does. And always look for opportunities to scale. So by scale, I mean, if you're spending $5 on Facebook ads and you're getting $10 worth of leads back, could your business afford to spend 10 and get 20? You always reach that point of diminishing marginal returns, but do bear this in mind. Scaling is really important. So just to recap, basically make sure you understand your value proposition and the message you bring, focusing on those benefits. Pick channels that suit the stage your startup is at and your personality, and then make sure you measure and scale. If you want to learn more, I don't know why my website address has showed up so tiny, but it's samfrost.co.nz. You can learn more there. I've got a YouTube channel.